Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ryan Embry, and I am the Director of Marketing here at Travel Media Group. I want to first thank everyone for taking the time to join me for our first ever masterclass for hotels and hotel groups, and I'm very excited to share this presentation with you all. Now, at the end of the presentation, I will be providing my direct contact information in case you have any follow-up questions with the content that I'm going to be sharing today. And we'll also have a short live Q&A session at the end. So use that chat feature located in your toolbar to type any sort of questions or feedback that you have along the way. We'll try to make sure we get all of those questions addressed. And also be on the lookout, since today's presentation is going to feature several interactive polls. Would absolutely love your participation in them. Now, social media is, as we know, a huge subject, and we could probably spend about 8 hours talking about it. So we're going to try to squeeze in about 3 hours worth of content in a 30 to 40-minute presentation. So if you've been on our educational webinars before, you'll notice a couple different things about this presentation in comparison to others. Again, hello, my name is Ryan Embry, the Director of Marketing. And what we're going to be doing today is really have an interactive educational course all around social media for hotels in 2022. Our objective is simple. We want to demonstrate a comprehensive step-by-step strategy to place your hotel in the best position to capture bookings throughout the traveler's journey, leveraging social media. So anywhere from inspiration to conversion, and I'm going to be getting my counterpart, Jason Lee, to join me here in a second as well. But wanted to give everyone a quick update on the agenda and what we're going to be going over today. We're going to be starting by talking about your hotel's social fitness. I'll explain what that means in a second. We're going to get into social content planning. Your hotel's voice. This is super important when it talk about the identity of your social media voice on social platforms. And then lastly, one of Jason and I's passions is social data, and really talking about how we can leverage this data in order to really tweak what's maybe not be going right and really accelerate what is. And then at the end, as I mentioned, we've got that live Q&A session. So before we get started, I did want to go ahead and launch one of our polls. This is going to be a very interactive educational course. We're going to cover all of these topics today that you see on this poll, but would love to get some feedback on what you might be here for. Again, with our educational webinars, I might have spent some time talking about why social media is important. With this masterclass, we're skipping right over that and getting to the good part. You know why social media is important. That's why you're here. You want to learn more about it. So I will go ahead and give everyone a quick second, then I'll share some results. And this might give us a good direction on where we can take the conversation for today's masterclass. So again, we'll be covering all of these, but just wanted to give a good feel for the audience that we have today. Okay, I'll go ahead and share the results, and we've got a pretty even split between everything. So again, I'm really happy that we are covering all of this. And if you have any specific questions, we'll hope to address those. But at this point, in the presentation, I want to start by talking about your hotel's social fitness. And what I mean by that is 3 important factors to measure success for your hotel's social strategy. The first comes with consistency, right? So how can you tell how socially fit your hotel is? It has to do with consistency, just like working out. If you went to the gym every 6 months, you can expect different results from someone that goes to the gym just on and off. And that's what we need to be with our social media, is very consistent. But with that consistency comes frequency. So I can be consistent on my social media, maybe posting once a week. That's a different frequency than someone that's posting 4 to 5 times a week, which we have really identified as a sweet spot for our hotel social partners and the amount of posts that they need. So you're not going to have the same results going to the gym if you go once a week versus somebody else going 4 to 5 times a week. And the same is with social media. So if you want to accelerate your audience growth, the engagement, there has to be that frequency level involved as well. And last is quality. So the number three reason that followers on social media will unfollow a page is based on irrelevant content that they see on their feed. So the quality and the expectation of what your followers are looking for has really been, the bar has been raised. So gone are the days of just essentially posting, hey, book now, here's a link. We need images, videos, posts, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today, is that content planning. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and bring in our VP of Product and Technology, Jason Lee. Jason, welcome to the Masterclass. Hey, Jason, are you there?
Sorry about that. Thanks for having me, Ryan.
All right, we got you. Well, I'm going to go ahead and send it to you, Jason, here. And, one thing while I send it over to Jason that I failed to mention is what you're going to be looking at today is, as it saw in the title, this is Social 2.0. So this is a tool that we use with our social partners that we have for the last decade, but we just upgraded it to our Social 2.0 and really made a lot of cool changes. But we're also going to share some ideas for those that are not partnering currently with Travel Media Group about how you can do this on your own. So Jason, let's go ahead and jump into it about content planning.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, planning is such an important part of the task because it helps every part of the result, especially the time it takes to actually create posts and to do things with meaning. So make sure that you have a bunch of things in place before you get started. So part of content planning is planning your media. So when I'm talking about media, I'm talking about images, I'm talking about videos. So one of the things that happens a lot when we work with hotels is that when we ask for images, it's kind of this like, I think somebody has them, or maybe they're on a disk somewhere. So you kind of get into this like, who's got it, who's got the images, and where are they? It's really important to have the images, and not just all of your images, but the images that are impactful to your property, and the images that show your property's best assets. And also the things that maybe the newest and best parts of your property. So a lot of times we'll have maybe 7, 8 pictures of our 1-bedroom, but maybe find like whittle that down to 2 or 3 that you want to use regularly, and set those aside. And so as you can see here, we have an image gallery that we put right into our system that you can insert into posts. But you can do this exact same thing yourself if you want to. You can either do that using folders. There's even folders on your phone where you could have like little galleries on your phone that you could set aside. So, but make sure you have them set aside. Make sure that the images that you want to use, and this includes user-generated content as well. So content that you're able to use from other people. So maybe a guest posted something, a picture about themselves, and you're okay to use it. You could actually put that into your gallery as well. But make sure you have proper attribution so that you don't get in trouble for using that. But having great media is probably the most important part of getting your social media off the ground.
It's having that media and it's organizing it, right? Just like you said, it's finding a place. How many hoteliers on this call right now, if we were saying we need to create a post, streamlined post efficiently, would be able to show someone, hey, here's where all my room pics are, amenity pics, and get that post out very, very quickly in an organized manner. And that's why you should also have descriptions and tags so that we can go ahead and organize that. So when you're ready to make that post, it's very quickly to go and it's very streamlined. That's what this whole thing is about. We know how precious a hotelier's time is, so having this organization is key.
Yeah, great point, Ryan. And as you can see here, there's lots of ways to categorize these. And because we're a hotel first company, we have a lot of that stuff already baked into to all of these image galleries, really setting you up for success there. Next is creating a content calendar. So you can see here we have this calendar that has posts, and really what's important here is knowing ahead of time what's going on, but also there's 2 parts to that. It's knowing when to post, right, and what you're posting about, but it's also scheduling time for yourself to post. So to actually scheduling time out of your day. So as we look at this, you can see we have in our system, we kind of pre-schedule posts. So we have the days of the week already kind of mapped out of when we're going to post. This is an important part of this because, again, this goes back to that thing that Ryan was talking about, like if you're working out every day, it becomes this habit. If you can set time aside to make these things happen, and you have it pre-scheduled where it reminds you to do it, then you're more apt to do it. But there's two parts to this. So the first part, obviously, is scheduling what type of content needs to go on certain days, but also scheduling your time to make sure that that content happens. And so where this gets kind of tricky is you can see here, we're posting right now in March, in the first week of March. So like when is it appropriate to talk about St. Patrick's Day? When is it appropriate to start talking about Easter or March Madness? So the things that are coming up, there could be an important part to your occupancy, but also an important informational part to a post that would influence a guest positively in post booking and pre-stay.
Yeah, this social calendar is a social media manager's best friend. If you don't have this already, print out a physical calendar and start marking how many times that you've made this post. This is what a hotel's posting 4 to 5 times a week looks like. It's sometimes difficult for us to see how much we're posting in a social feed because it's so back to back. But when you put it on a calendar like this, whether it be on this content planner in OneView, or whether you've printed out a physical one and you started to fill that out, or even just your Gmail or your Google Calendar, you need to have a way to essentially prepare and plan ahead. That is absolutely key to success with social media.
Yeah, and part of that also is not making it all the same. So as you start to create that content calendar, look for variety. You know, one thing I think that I see a lot that happens with new social media, people that get really excited, I'm going to start posting. We kind of because we're always selling our hotel rooms, we kind of gravitate towards pitching and try to gravitate towards selling our hotel rooms through posts. And you got to be real careful that not every post is a pitch. You want to have kind of this balance where you have information about your property, you have information about events, you have information about what's happening locally, and at the same time, you also have some fun things that are happening that get people engaged. Because when somebody follows you and somebody starts to like become part of your social community, if the posts that they're seeing all the time are kind of like they're not engaging or they're always wanting them to book now, then it could kind of turn them off. So you want to kind of keep them engaged, keep them excited about your product. And coming to your city. So another part of this, so making sure you have that is really important, but another part of it is kind of making sure that you're customizing things and not just having every image be the same. So one thing that we have inside of our system, and you can use this, there are other types of image editors that are out there, like Canva, if you know Photoshop, there's other ones, but being able to take an image that maybe you've used before about your breakfast, right? But this time doing something fun and putting some text inside of it that, that looks cool, that you're able to then kind of like, reinvent this picture a little bit, make it fun. It's still about your property, but maybe it's something like breakfast is back, or it's something about, how great one aspect of your breakfast is in a fun kind of text piece. So this might have been the same image that you've used a couple of times in other posts, but now it's like brand new, coming from something that's just been slightly edited. And then once you do those, make sure you kind of hang on to those because you could use them at other times. So just kind of back to that, just make sure that your content is customized, but it's also kind of fitting the things that are happening to drive occupancy. They're about your property. They're about what's great to do in your local area, and also fun. So kind of having all that variety.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. We just got a question about do you recommend using only photos of the hotel, or is it okay to mix in stock photos? And I absolutely think, when you go to your hotel's social feed, you are trying to sell a story. When your traveler sees your post, what you want them to do is click into your account and start reading that story down your feed, right? So if you're constantly giving them just photos of yourself, that doesn't really tell the entire story. So, but on the other side of the spectrum, sometimes I'll jump into a hotel's feed and it just looks like a giant event calendar, right? It's always talking about the next new event, a holiday coming up. It's nothing about the property itself. And at the end of the day, your traveler is going to stay with you at the property. So make sure you have a balance there. And I think that's what Jason is the point that's trying to get across is you absolutely need that balance there. Going back to that fitness analogy there, it'd just be like, if we're going in and only working out one part of our body. So that balance is absolutely crucial when it comes to our content planning. So just to recap here, so organizing a content library with your images, videos, and user-generated content somewhere, whether it's a folder or an image library with really detailed descriptions and tags. So if it's not necessarily you doing the posting, it's somebody else, they know what the details about that post. Secondly, create a content calendar and plan ahead at least 2 weeks. We are in an industry where you could have somebody visiting your social page that's looking to book tonight or looking to book in 6 months. So we need to be planning ahead and looking at our content that way. And lastly, customize your content. Make sure you're social selling on that timeline and on that feed. So let's talk about finding a voice. This got very, very popular during the pandemic. Businesses now, and even not just businesses, but guests, they're looking for what identity your property is at, and what you're trying to communicate to your customers. So there is such thing as a social voice, and you're going to want to make sure that's very, very clear. And Jason, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the voice of your property is important, and the reason why, and you look at it a few different ways, is that when we talk about the voice, it's like it's maybe not necessarily political or what you stand for, but it's kind of like, what's the vibe of your hotel? Like, what's happening at your hotel? What is it that someone can expect when they come and stay there? And you want to kind of have a little bit of leeway inside of that voice, because you want to be able to have posts that will resonate with a corporate traveler, with a leisure traveler, with a group or convention traveler. So you want to have a little bit of leeway in there, but you also want to define that. And defining the voice can be something that you have kind of a more of a team event. So you want to get people that are involved, get your frontline employees, talk to your front desk people, talk to people that interact with guests regularly, and try to get kind of that essence of what your property is about. And then once you have that, get that down, write it down and define it, and come back to it and revise it and evolve it, because it's not something that just stays in one spot. And as you start, you might be a little more like, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to portray my hotel. And then as you get going, the more you see interaction with posts, the more you see what resonates with the guest, the more you can kind of tweak that and get that right. But voice of the hotel and tone of the hotel is really important, and especially if you get into something where you're looking at posts, and when we look at posts at a property, or when you look at posts of any business, you kind of scroll through. If there's a bunch of stuff that's disjointed, then you might not really understand what's going on at that property. So making sure that you have that voice defined, written down, and someplace that you can access it when you're posting especially is really important.
Yes, my extreme example that I've been using has been, if you've got two social media champions at your property, and one of them's in the lobby doing a TikTok dance, while the other one is trying to promote professionally groups and talking about their high-class customer service, that's two different messages there, right? So we want to make sure that these notes that we provide for whoever's posting is detailed enough that unfortunately, a side effect of our industry is a lot of turnover, especially right now with the staffing shortage. So having something like this, whether it's in your in a different folder or Google Doc, showing what that tone and voice looks like, you should be able to bring someone in that doesn't know anything about the property, and they should be able to get a good idea of the messaging that you're trying to put out there socially. So I think that's a really great exercise for you to take a step back and said, okay, if I hired a new social media person tomorrow, how would they start posting? What direction would I give them?
Yeah, definitely. And then I think next it's really so once you have that kind of down, it's really starting to define other parts of your notes. So again, like we have it organized here, but you can do this on a Google Doc or on Microsoft Word or someplace, but a place where you can access it, preferably a place where multiple people can access it and add to it. But making sure that you've written down things like that, like yearly events, so things that happen a lot. What kind of attractions draw people in? And it could be a lot of different things. It doesn't have to just be the big major attractions. It could be just other things, other points of interest around your property that people would enjoy seeing. It might not be the main reason why they came to see you, but the fact that you posted something fun around your property could be a reason. It could be a place where they really appreciate that information and a reason for them to engage with you in social media. And then the next thing would be to kind of define out the types of posts. And we talked about this a little bit, like not making everything a pitch. But how we've defined it out is we do something for property features, we look at local events, and we look at local stories. And so we have that sort of separated out. And if you get into this, these are the features that you want to talk about. So again, document this down. So in these notes, and this sounds like it's a lot of work, but if you do a lot of this up front, so you kind of get the basis of these notes done up front, then now you can come back to them and refine them, but you don't have to reinvent them every time you get into them. But there might be things about your property that you want to talk about, and there might be things about your property that are date specific. So let's say you're renovating rooms, right? You definitely want to get your new renovated rooms out on social posts when those are done. Let's say you have a pool that is closed now for winter, but it's going to be opening up soon, and so maybe you have pictures that you posted from last summer, you're going to post in winter to get people excited about booking. So it's using different types of property features, using different types of events, and then getting those things really defined and in a place where you can easily access them. And then the other part of that would be then taking that same information and trying to put some dates around it. Like, what are the dates that are important? What are the dates that these are booked at? What are the dates when they occur? And so from an event standpoint, or from a local, like what's happening in your local town. But having all these things in one space, and it doesn't, obviously this is kind of organized this way, but you can use the same format in a Word document or in a Google document.
Yeah, and this really came about pretty organically, to be honest with you. When we started, we respond to hotels' reviews as well, and we found out when we talked to these owners, some of the owners or groups that we work with were saying, "Hey, we want a little bit more laid back tone in our review responses and our social posts that we're doing, kind of fun loving, going off some of the trends." And then we had the other side of the spectrum, and that's a wide spectrum there that we're talking about. So if we're uncovering that on our side, every single hotel, even on this call, I'm sure has their own identity that they want to put out there, their social voice. It's just about putting that together and putting it at a place where no matter who is in charge of the social media for that day, week, month, or even year in advance, that's going to be consistent and that message is going to stay the same.
Absolutely. And then the last part of this about finding your social voice is, again, like what I was talking about before, where we don't want to do this in a vacuum. When you create your first post or you create a couple of posts, maybe create them, get the image together and get what you're going to say together in another document, and then share that with your staff and socialize it a little bit. Do they like this? Does this make sense to them? Would they click on it? Does this excite them? Like, I think these are important parts, especially when you're first getting going, to kind of get an idea and make sure that everybody's behind you on this. And obviously you're not going to please everybody, but again, finding your voice, finding the right kind of vibe, finding the right kind of flow of information out to the guest is really critical. And so there's no reason to just do that on your own. You've got some great people that interact with guests on a daily basis that could give you some valuable insight. So I would definitely say that. And at the same time, also find some social champions at your property. You know, find some people that are into social media that maybe want to do pictures, that maybe that have ideas that they can share with you and collaborate with you on.
Yeah, there has to be some sort of audit or quality check program at the property. You know, getting multiple people involved, it's way too important to be putting this on one person's shoulders. So that would be my biggest suggestion, is definitely get multiple people involved so that they can kind of proof and make sure that everything is that voice is consistent across the board. So when we're talking about finding a social voice, again, we're defining your hotel's social messaging, that tone, that voice, the hotel info that's staying static most of the time unless there's renovations or anything like that, and those detailed notes. Organize those, put them in a place that are easy to access no matter who's accessing them. And then last but not least, quality check your content. So up to this point, we should have our content already planned out in the future. So it's not something that we're trying to get checked same day sort of situation. We're planning that out and getting that approved and quality checked. So last, and again, this is one of my favorites. Let's talk about leveraging data and analytics, because social data and analytics have come so far over the past decade that we've been doing this. And if you're trying to accelerate your audience growth, look no further than just looking at some of the analytics that your posts are performing at.
Yeah, I 100% agree, Ryan. And so this is kind of the fruits of our labor, right? This is all of the work that we've done now kind of comes down to what happened when this posted, right? So we got our images together, we've got video, we've got our notes, we've got the voice of our hotel, we've got consensus from people at the property. Now it's time, this post goes out live. What happened? Who looked at it? And what happened when they did. So we track it, and these same type of analytics, engagement, impression, reach, these same type of analytics are available on the actual social media. So if you go into your Facebook account or your Instagram account, Twitter, LinkedIn, they're all there, and it's very similar type of data that you get, and you can look at it, and we kind of put it all together, but you have the ability to go in and see how things are done. And so when you look at these things like reach and impressions, right? So reach would be how many people actually read this post. So how many it made it to their feed and they read it. Impressions would be they maybe saw it. They're kind of flipping through and they saw it. And engagement, which I think is a really important number, is how many people clicked on it, how many people liked it, how many people made a comment on it or shared it. So looking at that data alongside your posts is really important. So seeing what posts perform and why did that post perform? What was it about this that made someone decide to really click into this and check it out? So there was 4 comments on this post. There was 11 clicks. There were 44 likes. What was it about this post that resonated with people? So understanding that and looking at that, seeing where these high points are and why those perform so well really will define what you post next. And so it's a really important part of this equation, because you've done all these things, and now you get to see how it affected people and what it is that they liked about it. So looking at all these things in this way is pretty cool. We also look at it in the same way with ads. So if we posted an ad, what happened with the ads? So there's 2 ways of doing ads in here as well. So one would be that you are doing ads that are more promotional based, and then there's page-like ads to get people to grow your community. And then there's also boosting posts. So it's taking content that was relevant and then putting a little bit of money behind it to boost it. So we do this a lot with posts, where we look at different types of posts and go, hey, this I think this will do well. If we do this, if we add a little money to this, I think more people will engage with it. So you can see what that engagement looks like around these boosted posts. And it does make a really big difference when you have that. And if you have a little bit of insight to get that going, then you can reach more people, and it could be people outside of your community, which is an important part of this whole equation. But the other thing to think about inside of this is how do I get more content, or how do I revise content that resonates with people? So once I started with this one post and it did well, I talked about dogs here. You know, is this something that is this a reoccurring theme? Could I bring this back in the spring? Could I bring this back in the summer? So seeing stuff that resonates and coming back to it in different ways is also a great way of kind of keeping all of these numbers going the right direction.
Yeah, if you are not signing in or have some way to track these analytics, you are missing out on a huge opportunity. I think the simplest way to explain it is, you know, we've all heard that social media posts are almost like an online billboard for your property. Well, imagine if you were in that car after every single person passed that billboard and they gave you feedback, whether they're saying, hey, I liked what'd you think about that picture? Did you like it? Did you want to share it with other people? That's exactly what this data and analytics give you. And it's exactly what Jason said there of saying it's going to give you a blueprint for what to post moving forward, or even an content to post. That was one of the poll questions that about 25% of people answered. What should I post? If you start looking at your DMs or your social messaging and start to uncover a pattern there of, do you guys have a pet fee, or what's your pet weight limit? Now all of a sudden you say, let me save some time for my staff and create a post answering these frequently asked questions. Then you're setting the right expectations, and if you just provided yourself a brand new piece of content that you know your social audience is interested in.
That's a great point. And I think kind of alongside that, knowing your audience and refining your audience is also really important. And one of the things that we really encourage properties to do is to engage with your guests. So one thing that's really interesting is that we have all these guests that come and stay with us, but how often do we ask them to follow us on social media? How often do we ask them to engage with us? And if we think about it, the actual guests that are staying with us, all these people that come and stay on a regular basis, they're our segment. They're our people, and their friends are probably our people. So their audiences will influence the same kind of like-minded people. And so being able to influence them and get them involved in social media can really help bring out the different demographics that you have and add those demographics. So the actual demographics that are staying with you at the property, kind of translate them into your social community and be able to post to them regularly. And so all of those things are, like we want all those things. So it could be that family that comes once a year, but at the same time, it could be, someone who came and stayed with you one time because they were on a sales trip. And now different people at their company, because you interacted with them on LinkedIn, now different people at their company see your property, see him like your property, see him engage with your post. The next time they come stay there, they want to stay with you. So it's that kind of stuff. So knowing your audience and then taking that audience and kind of translating it into your community. And then also, gathering that information. So is my community growing, and where is it growing? And is it the right type of community?
Yeah, every single piece of engagement on our post is telling us a story. It's about figuring out what the why is, and these data and analytics can give you that, and it's the key to acceleration of follower growth. If you're just posting without kind of checking what you've done in the past, and you're always forward looking and not, refining what you've done in the past, then all of a sudden you're going to miss out on an opportunity to accelerate your follower growth. And it's those hotels that are really jumping in, and groups of hotels that are jumping into this data that are positioning themselves to win a lot of occupancy, because they are going to be in front of a lot of eyes here in the next couple months as we get into the busy months.
Absolutely. And so the last thing that I want to talk about in this is leveraging this information. So it's also, Ryan alluded to this earlier, where it's like people reach out to us, right? When somebody likes a post, or they make a comment on a post, or they mention us. Social mentions are something that is really on the rise. So where people will mention, at your hotel, I'm staying at, and they put that out to their community. Having something that pulls in those mentions, and you being able to, as the property, being able to like that even comment on it. But anybody that comments, also being able to return that comment and reward them for them reaching out to you is super important. But again, this is also so similar to analytics. This is also sort of like the fruits of your labor, right? It's people reacting and reacting right back to you, for the post that you made and for the content that you shared with them. So being able to have that in a feed, being able to get alerts on that regularly is important. So we have it all together in one, but you can also do this by making sure you have your alerts set up, your Facebook Business Manager, inside of Instagram, on Twitter, so that you can make sure that you react appropriately and timely.
Yeah, make sure you're responding to those comments for sure. If you do a lot of background work on your hotel's voice and your hotel's tone, this is a significant part of that, is the response or lack of response, and it has an impact on guest impression of you. So got a question about social platforms. We'll answer that in just a quick second. So just to recap with the leveraging data and analytics, we want to track impression and reach data, our post performance. If we're doing social ad spend, make sure it's targeted, make sure you're working with experts with social ad spend, and make sure we're focusing on community growth. We want to analyze our social audience. What type of travelers are we having? What type of travelers are going to react to the content that we're putting out there? And let's make sure we're tailoring that content to engage with them. And then we're going to explore social engagement data. So likes, shares, reaction. What are people reacting to? What are people messaging us? What are questions they're asking? And that might spur some ideas for engaging content. So, I wanted to share this, and we're going to send this recording out, but if you want to take a screenshot as well, this is our 10-step social action plan for hotels and hotel groups. What we talked about was creating a content library, organizing that library and putting it in a calendar form, planning ahead, very, very critical key, categorizing, tagging, putting as many details around your content as possible, identifying that hotel voice, and you want to document your social notes and make sure we have people on site that are doing audit and proofs of your social posts. It's too important now. And we want to track our social analytics, identify who our social audience is, leverage that engagement data. And then this is the key: social strategy, evaluation, and refinement. What's working and how do I level up? So this is not a linear plan. This is actually almost a snowball. Once you're done with that evaluation of everything you've done here, you go back up to the top and start refining that content library. What were people reacting to, and what did I find out during this, the insights I found out during this action plan. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and launch one more poll before our Q&A. I did want to let everyone know that we did have several handouts as well, but this poll here, let me see if I can launch this. I might have closed that down a little early. Okay. Well, if you're interested in the poll is going to be, if you're interested in learning more about Travel Media Group solutions, go ahead and just type in social into your chat box. We'll make sure to give you a full social analysis. We'll show you social 2.0, what that could mean for your hotel or hotel groups. Again, just type in social into the chat box, and we'll make sure that somebody reaches out to you. I apologize for that. So at this time, we'll go ahead and open it up. I know we had a couple questions here, Jason, that I'll start with. Let me see. So one of the questions was, what social platforms should we focus on?
Yeah, that's always a really good question. And and I know Facebook may have gotten a little bit of a black eye and lately, and has been a little bit kind of up in the air with certain kinds of privacy things. But Facebook remains the largest by far in terms of total audience, and the fact that it is connected to Instagram, it makes it very easy to put those two together. So once you create a Facebook business page, you can connect it to your Instagram page, and you kind of have them together. So Facebook and Instagram coming together, really, like those two, 100% I would say, definitely, if you're not going to do anything else, do those. The next thing I would say, and this could be shocking, is the next one I would say is not Twitter, is LinkedIn. I would go ahead and if you haven't done LinkedIn yet, go ahead and do it, especially if you have business travelers and you work with business. And this is going to be a little bit different. We didn't talk about that a lot in here. It might be a little bit different content and a little bit of a different way of creating the interaction. But I feel like LinkedIn is a really important place to have information about your property. And if you have meeting space and things like that, that's even more important to make sure you're there. And then lastly would be Twitter and Pinterest. So yeah, there's a lot that you can do. But I would look at each one kind of as what they will bring you. But 100% Facebook, Instagram, that has to be a must on your list.
What about social strategies for hotel groups? Should they define their own voice, or should they focus on individual properties?
That's something that we hear a lot. We work with a lot of management companies, and you really have to focus on the local property. And it's not that you don't want the management company can't have their input, but what's happening at the local area, that's how people search. They search locally. When somebody chooses your property, they want information about your local area, about you. The focus really has to happen at the property level in order to make sure that content fits what guests are going to interact with.
Awesome. Well, I know we are right at the 40-minute mark. I did want to go ahead and share my direct contact information in case you had any questions. We also have several handouts, white papers on social media for hotels exclusively. As Jason said, we are a one vertical hotel industry, and we have been for almost 40 years. So I encourage you to research that. But I want to go ahead and thank everyone for joining me. Jason, thank you for joining the masterclass today. Again, if you're interested in learning a little bit more about Travel Media Group social solutions for hotels or hotel groups, just type in social and we'll be sure to follow up with you after this masterclass. And we've got kind of a different forum next month. We're actually doing one-on-one workshops talking about how to grow your occupancy using digital marketing online. So hope you'll be able to join us. That's going on through March 22nd to 24th. Time slots open soon for that. But I want to thank everyone for taking the time to join us on this masterclass, and have a great, fantastic rest of your week.